another day, another roof. Here we are. We have Sage and Steven from Westlake Products. Thank you very much for coming here today. And we're going to be talking about tile roofs and all the whole systems. And I was amazed with the experience I had with you guys during a class through a building distributor supplier. And I really wanted for you guys to participate in this podcast to educate the public. It's not about only Protect Preserve Roofing, but it's about the industry in general. Florida is our home base, obviously, but throughout the country, the challenges that are faced with the tile roofs and all the systems, the roofing systems in general. Once again, thank you so much, Sage. Thank you so much, Steven, for being here today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
All right, I would like to ask you, there's so many variations about roof tile, right? So my first question would be, what's the difference between concrete tile, clay tile, and slate?
Yeah. So concrete, clay, and slate, they're obviously three different type of materials that you can make this roofing tile out of, right? So concrete, it's they're all man-made, but concrete is a sand and cement mixture, right? Extruded into a mold. It's, what we make our new point tiles out of. If you look at it from the side, it's normally thicker. It's got a little bit of a more sandy appearance versus clay will be a little thinner and smoother, right? Slate has a very stone appearance. It's used, by chipping away to make the shape, right? It's a very involved tile. We don't have too much slate in Florida. No.
Yeah. And the weight is going to be different, right? The density of a clay is going to be more dense than concrete, which is a little bit more porous. We do testing to make sure that the porousness of the concrete doesn't affect the water intrusion into the roofing system. So there is testing that we do to make sure that, the water is not getting through the concrete tile.
That's really nice. Talking about density. Yeah, clay tile then is being denser than concrete tile. Is stronger and therefore more resistant to hail damage.
So I wouldn't be able to kind of talk about the testing of hail on the clay tile. It is going to be technically a little bit stronger because it's a denser material, but because most clay tile have a curved arch, it can actually make it a little bit harder to walk on, especially during installation. So those are some of the factors you have to consider, that sometimes a denser, stronger tile in terms of maintenance is not the best scenario.
And when it comes to cost, I believe that clay is more expensive.
Yes. Yeah, it's
right.
The Cadillac.
And you mentioned that is not so much used in Florida. Is there a particular reason for that?
No, clay is used a good amount in Florida. Slate isn't as much.
Okay.
Clay you see more in South Florida and a little bit in Orlando in the more the older neighborhoods, maybe like the Winter Park area. But concrete, it's more accessible. We make it in Florida. A lot of times clay comes from a different country. Ours comes from California, so you are dealing with freight to bring it in, right? Versus concrete, which we have two plants actually in Florida, Lake Wales and Okeechobee.
Nice.
Yeah.
American made, baby.
Yeah.
And with all that, talking about I guess the number one product then would be the concrete tile.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And what about colors and variations? At the class you guys showed so many colors and variations. The color through and just the painting, so to speak. What's benefits and what are the differences? You want to explain a little bit of that for the homeowner that's trying to, decide what they want to do?
Yeah. So there's two ways that a concrete tile can be colored, right? So it's color through or color coat, also referred to as slurry coat back in the day. A color through tile, the oxide is mixed through the concrete, so you're going to see it go all the way through the tile. Versus a color coat, it's an oxide and cement slurry sprayed on top of the tile, where the actual tile is going to be gray or white underneath, right? So they're going to age a little bit differently. The color through is always going to age better just because it has the oxide going all the way throughout. So if you ever got a chip or any type of weathering, you could see that in this case, it's going to be all the way throughout. Versus this, the color coat, throughout the years, the gray, you're going to start seeing the gray rise up underneath. If there's any chipping that ever happens, you're going to see the gray. The color coat is also way more expensive than the color through. So it is something to keep in mind with the homeowner for their purchasing decision.
Okay. As far as like color choices,
Yeah.
one's better than the other. If somebody just wants something really unique, which one is best to accommodate that choice?
So the color coat, it is a more saturated tile. It's a little bit more shiny. It's got a higher, R value, which Steven might be able to know a little bit more about. But it's just your energy efficiency, just because it is more reflective. But color-wise, we offer beautiful colors in both tiles. It's just really homeowners' preference at that point. We have stuff in the terracotta ranges, in the browns, in the grays. We carry our dark charcoal, which is almost a black and flat tile, really popular right now. So we have a really great selection, and we can get, samples for the homeowner. We have design centers all across Florida. So, yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
I see you have 3 different styles
Yes.
of tile over there.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit what's the difference between one and the other, and perhaps what's the best? Is there such a thing as the best style for a different region or part of the country or even in Florida that you recommend or is more used, and why?
Yeah. So there's 3 profiles for tile, 3 main ones, right? So you're gonna have a high barrel, which in this case is our Barcelona. This is just a slice sample, so just to show you the shape. A medium barrel. This is also called a double barrel because, as you can see, there's 2 bumps instead of just the 1. And then your flat, which is, flat. Pretty easy to tell that one. These are just going to give you 3 different looks, right? These are all meant to emulate something else. So our Barcelona, the highest barrel, is meant to mimic a clay cap and pan tile, right? So this is going to give you that traditional Mediterranean look, especially if you do it in a terracotta color.
Oh,
right.
I like those.
Yes,
like
yeah.
a Spanish look, right? The old
Exactly.
look. Okay, awesome.
Very pretty, very timeless. But we offer it, and we have a dark gray in this called our slate black antique, and some browns like our chestnut burnt and our espresso. So lots of variation in that. We have a medium, the double barrel. So this one's also a style of clay tile, or it's meant to emulate a style of clay tile, right? Just a little bit different. This one we see a lot on multifamily houses, so like townhomes, condos, but still looks really great if you're just a single family too. The flat's gonna be the most modern of the looks, right? This also comes in a bunch of different colors. We have it in the black, gray, brown. We have a few terracotta colors. This is gonna give you the sleek, modern, straight lines. We're seeing that become the most popular right now.
Wonderful. And as far as longevity, is there specifically one is better than the other as far as time, or they're gonna last the same time, or they differ one to another?
They all are gonna last the same amount of time, depending on where it's at versus who's walking on it, if they know how to walk on it. We have a 50-year warranty on all of these, right? But technically, the tile can last longer than that. The installation, the decking, the underlayment, that all goes into effect, but the tile itself has a 50-year warranty.
So, and to kind of talk about the installation part of it, your roof substrate has a lot to do with the outlook of the final tile roof. So on a flat tile, if you have a lot of roof deflection, right, your decking is kind of wavy, then on a flat tile, you're going to be able to see that a lot more than if you would if you had the high barrel tile.
That's a great point.
Yeah, if you get on the roof and when you're doing the pre-inspection and you can already see the roof kind of wavy, then you might want to talk a homeowner into, hey, let's hide some of this by going to a barrel tile.
I actually had a case recently in a neighborhood in Florida that the homeowner had the barrel tile, and she wanted like a flat look, but I mean it looked fine. But now it occurred to me that to keep in mind that if we see some deflections on the roof and what, like we can see a lot in shingle roofs, and you can see like it bowing and dips. And if the homeowner is trying to change to a flat, more modern, because now it's the modern look is the new look, so to speak. To be careful with that. That's a great point. Thank you, Stephen, for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to go all the way to the barrel and you want to stay flat, we have different flat profiles too. So this one, which is just the plain, this is our Saxony slate. So there's no grooving in it. There's no texture. But we also have a Saxony split slate, which has a groove in it, and then our plantation slate-like, which has a groove and a bevel. Anytime you add more dimensions, it's going to hide the waving in the decking more.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And talking about installation here.
Yep.
So which one's easier or harder to install?
So I don't think there's one that's easier or harder. I think there's some factors that kind of change some things. You know, are you putting this system on battens? How are you attaching it? Is it a foam or a mechanical install? Those can kind of change some factors, but I think they're all generally the same. I mean, there's not, the flat tile can sometimes be easier to walk on, just because you have a flat surface to walk on. But in terms of installation, they're all pretty similar.
If you could pick up one of those and show the homeowner how to properly walk the roof tile,
Yeah.
how would you show them where to walk, where to steps?
It's kind of hard to show on this barrel tile, but I would actually cross the two.
Okay.
The two arches, which we would call the cap, on a flat tile. So every tile is supposed to cover the tile below at 3 inches. So that's where you want to put all the weight. The load bearing is what they call the head lap. So you want to walk on that head lap, even on the barrel and the medium profile. You want to walk on that head lap. You don't want to walk into the field of the tile, because that's where it's going to be. You're putting the most weight, especially on this high barrel tile where it's elevated in the cap. You don't want to be in the middle of the tile and then end up crushing it, right? So you also want to stay off the joints where they overlap and lock. You want to stay off those corners. So you really want to stay in the middle of the tile at the head lap, as far as you can stay down on the head lap.
Okay, that's a great point. So not to the edge itself. So it's just a little bit above.
Right.
To the edge, it could be, since they're right there, and it could crack, right?
Yeah, and especially if you're walking on the joints, what you'll get is corner chips, and then a lot of times there'll be a lot of them, and then you think, oh, maybe this is a manufacturing issue, when in reality it's just a foot traffic issue.
That's a great point. When we walk on tile roofs to inspect them, we see a lot of chipping, a lot of tiles in the corners, just like 1 inch to 2 inches. They're either missing or somebody already did some repair and glued them together. Mm-hmm. Is that basically because of walking, or could be maybe related to hail damage?
So it's probably not related to hail damage, especially this far south in Florida. It's probably due to walking. I mean, you do have a little bit of breakage in shipping, right? So sometimes crews maybe that aren't familiar with the process, that they will go ahead and install these and not just make sure that it's not a full piece. And there's some other factors, right? Like we talked about the deck deflection. So if the tile isn't flat and you have it fastened down, then maybe that causes the tile to break as well. Maybe the foam you put too much foam and you're causing a little bit of waviness in the tile. That can also cause issues in walking on it and therefore cracking.
About installation, Stephen, you recommend foam or screws? So,
either, right? I recommend meeting code and the wind uplifts needed for the area.
That's
right?
That's a great answer.
That's the most important, right? That's what we're putting our roofs on our houses for, is to protect them against the elements, especially here in Florida, hurricanes, tornadoes, things of that nature. So there are some benefits to both, right? So a mechanical install, you're going to have the benefit of cost saving, right? A mechanical install, unless maybe you're having to use a lot of stainless steel screws, because those can get pretty expensive, that's going to be your benefit. Now, a foam install, you're going to have the benefit of no penetrations in your roof. And there's kind of a myth that a lot of people who don't know that a foam can't be as strong as a metal screw, and that is quite not true, right? So a foam installation actually provides higher wind uplift than a mechanically installed system.
Wow. Well, a foam installation provides higher uplift than screwing. That's a great point. That's a great point. And again, I like also what you mentioned, which is also my preference, to minimize the penetrations into the decking. Again, it's intended to be self-sealing, right? The underlayment and whatnot in perfect conditions.
Right. In perfect conditions. Yep.
But again, the foam would do a great job. talking about underlayment. Sometimes we go to properties to inspect them, and it's really intriguing that the tile looks fine overall. Last, a few broken tiles here and there, but it's leaking all over. What could be the reason?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different scenarios. You could have a tear in maybe your underlayment system that you can't see. Maybe you have battens, and so when you have battens on your roof, if you don't have spaces in between the battens to release the water, then you'll have a lot of accumulation behind the battens that will eventually rot out the batten, which is why you're supposed to use a treated wood whenever you're installing the batten system. And they could find ways to where these are mechanically fastened into the deck, and eventually leak into the home. Also, flashing details can be improperly installed. Florida has an extreme amount of different architecture. It's not like I'm originally from Alabama. Everything's kind of a barn style gable roof, right? There's no valleys, there's no crickets, there's no dead valleys or dead walls or things like that. I mean, it's pretty straight on one side and straight on the other. Easy living, easy roofing. So in Florida, that's not the case. You run into very complex situations that if the contractor you selected is not knowledgeable in how to handle these situations, you're going to end up with issues in the future.
Basically, and obviously, the contractor has a lot to do with the life of the entire system, correct?
Yeah, the contractor does, and also the homeowner does, right? So one thing I always say is that the most expensive thing you can do as a homeowner when selecting a new roof is to try to find a way to do it cheaper, right? Because when we start looking at cheaper underlayments, cheaper products, trying to get a cheaper price, right? And a lot of times homeowners will see a contractor bring up maybe flashing details. Hey, I need to cut out your stucco because your flashing's not done right, and these are added extra cost, and they oftentimes go to the cheaper contractor, not realizing that it's not comparing apples to apples, right? So, in the commercial world, especially for government contracts, a lot of people put in bids, right? And so a lot of times what they do is they take the cheapest one and the most expensive one, and they automatically get rid of those, right? And so that's what I would actually recommend homeowners to do, is if you're going to get 4 or 5 bids, which a lot of homeowners do nowadays, take the cheapest one and the most expensive one and throw them out and compare the ones in between.
It makes sense. But also, to be fair, it's good to I would suggest put the estimates side by side. Try to understand every single line item, and if you have doubts about it, ask the contractor. Because in roofing, there's so many ways that people can cheat, so to speak, and the homeowner will only, obviously, nobody wants to pay to overpay for something. But in roofing, there's so many ways that it's $100 here, $200 there. That to me does not make sense as a roofer to save that money for sake of longevity of the entire system. But for a roofer that's doing 20, 30, 40, 50 roofs a week, $100, it's a lot of money at the end of the year, and will make sense to them. And I also have seen in those cases, I believe 20 years ago, the underlayment was the old underlayment, right? The felt underlayment, and those seems to dry rot before the tile. And water getting in could be a wind-driven water into the system, especially in the valleys and whatnot, and will cause a leak. And that's really a shame, because again, that's a roof tile was designed to last 40, 50 plus years, and now 75 years, right? And now the underlayment is gone at how long, right? I mean, before. Now with the new material, new product, how long does the best underlayment that's in the market today, like the top qualities, how long it lasts?
So generally you can get a 30-year warranty on a self-adhered underlayment. That's what we provide at Westlake with our Tile Seal HT. There has been a lot of things have changed over the last 20 years. How we install roofs has changed. The market's changed. and we make these changes to make the roofing system better. Like you said, that 30-pound felt, it crumbles. When you tear it off, it crumbles. Used to, those old hot mop systems. Some people still do that, and they swear by it. The majority of the market has went away from that. In Florida, we have to worry about wind uplift. So a tile roofing system is the only roofing system on a steep slope system that requires the underlayment to be uplift tested as well, right? And that's because you have foam applications. So if the underlayment goes, everything attached to the underlayment goes as well, right? So that's one of the unique things about a tile roof is that not only are your tiles tested for wind uplift, but your underlayment is tested as well.
Now it leads to another question. We're going to be installing a 50, 70 expectancy of a roof in a house, but the underlayment's given at almost half of the lifetime. Is there anything to prolong that, or even as crazy as considering, hey, my tile can have another 30 years life? Can I remove and install again? Does it make sense, right? I mean, we were talking a little bit about that, but again, does it make sense? I mean, it kind of is really frustrating just imagining this, spending all this money, great product, and the underlayment can actually fail before actually the life of the tile. Is there anything that can be done to prevent or extend that, or actually make both last as long?
Yeah, so one thing that I see is that another big misconception is that contractors have that since water can get under the tile roofing system, that we don't have to do what we need to do to prevent as much water from getting under there as possible. So doing things like sealing all your sidewalls, your head walls, preventing as much water to stay on top of the system as possible, and not to leave these open so that water can get in. Some of it has a lot to do with the homeowner, roof maintenance. So over time, you're going to have to do some roof maintenance. You're going to have to check all your penetrations. Maybe you need, slate. We talked about slate earlier. In Europe, if you have hips that have some kind of concrete mortar there, then you have to what they call repoint. We don't really talk about that much here in Florida, but over the years you're going to have to repoint your mortar bed on your hips and your ridges, around your penetrations, around your skylights, things like that. So there's a lot of things that we can do just in maintenance to make the roof system last long. Unfortunately here in Florida, that a lot of times homeowners get put in the situation to where it's not even a leak that makes them have to replace their roof. It's the insurance company, So a good thing about a tile roofing system is you're going to get a longer life expectancy out of it as opposed to a shingle roof, where we're coming up into an insurance market where they're making you change a shingle roof every 10 years.
Yep. So pointing the tiles is, just to clarify, is when we remove the cement around the ridges and eaves and all that. So now you recommend actually removing it entirely or just patching it? Sometimes it's cracked or little pieces that are like falling off. What's the best recommendation? And I understand that there's a price factor. I mean, you can go up on the roof, just do a touch up here and there. I see guys, they're just painting a little bit. What is the best solution? And again, to prolong the life of the roof overall.
Yeah, so you just want to focus on large cracks, right? Missing chunks out of the tile. So it's very common that whenever you install a mortar bed ridge and cap system, and remember, for the most part, that the mortar on your ridges and your hips are just weather blocking. It's not meant to hold the tile. You have foam or maybe fasteners holding that trim tile. So the concrete there is just for weather blocking. There's a couple things you can do. We provide a pre-mixed mortar that's a type S mortar, which is a little bit less prone to cracking, and it has fibers mixed in the bag as well to help strengthen it. So that's one thing that you could do right off the start. They also have flexible point up, so it's kind of a malleable kind of like concrete is when you first apply it, but a little bit more elasticity to it. I think it's got an acrylic resin that you can put to seal that. It kind of works like an acrylic paint, kind of, but it's a little thicker. It has a little bit more consistency to it, and it comes in a bunch of different colors to help match the mortar that's already there. But generally, you want to take care of places where water intrusion is going to be most prevalent.
What's the recommended time to perform a roof maintenance and inspections?
So I would recommend it at least once a year. Especially in Florida before hurricane season, right? You want to catch a small leak before it becomes a big problem. It's a lot cheaper to fix a couple broken tiles, maybe fix a small leak, than to have a lot of water come into your house and now you're having to replace sheetrock, mold and asbestos remediation, water damage control. So all of this stuff can add up. And in Florida, with the way deductibles are with your insurance company, deductibles can be as much as $10,000. So you want to try to save as much money as you can, and take care of things before they happen.
And I think also it's an eye-opening for you, the homeowner, is the myth that if my roof is not leaking, everything should be fine, and that's not true. And the reason being is because sometimes when we're going to remove, whether it's a shingle roof, a tile roof, a metal roof, the roof was not leaking, or it's just small area here and there. But when we remove, we see like a lot of rot wood. Mm-hmm. So the water could not be making all the way through the ceiling, but small leaks could be making a lot of damages. And that could all be caught and addressed before causing all that damage, because now during the process it's going to cost a lot of money, more money than they're already spending in replacing rafters, fixing trusses, or whatever the case might be, because of those small leaks. Right. And when it comes to, again, the underlayment, it's just making sure water's not getting there, keeping the maintenance, and that will definitely extend the life of the roof, right?
Correct. A good installation is going to serve you longer than hiring a contractor that's just trying to give you a good price. And you pay for what you get. That's kind of been the lifelong adage, that you pay for what you get.
That's a great point. Now, in Florida, we can install the self-adhering material directly to the decking, mm-hmm. right? And we also can do the nailing of the base sheet, and then the peel and stick or the self-adherent right on top of it, which is makes a two-ply system. Mm-hmm. What is the best application? Obviously it's more expensive, using more material, more labor intense, but if you're already spending that much money replacing a roof tile, what do you recommend and why?
So there's a couple of different bases that you can attach. Typically, whenever you do a mechanically based system, it's because there's already a peel and stick already on the roof. When you tore the roof off, you can't get that up without damaging the integrity of the plywood. And so you attach a mechanically based system on top of that, so that you can put a self-adhered on top of the mechanically attached system. Because when you have an underlayment already on the roof, you can't stick to that. It just won't adhere, right? So again, we have to meet wind uplift. If we're putting a underlayment on top of something that it won't stick to, then we're eliminating the purpose of a wind uplift. So we had talked earlier, maybe before we started this, about some of the reasons why roofs leak. One of those being because the fasteners, water will get under the tile system, which it can. We expect some of it too. And it finds a screw that maybe didn't get self-sealed. So we also have a self-adhered base system that we can put our tile seal to. And when you have those two self-adhered systems, that just gives you a better sealant rate whenever you put that screw in, that fastener in, because now you have two layers of that self-adhered system.
What is the best recommendation you could give to a homeowner before hiring a contractor to replace their roof tile? Making sure it's in the bid, making sure that it's clear and it's not hidden. Let's say this guy, it's a little cheaper, but he's not doing this. So what you definitely recommend and not save cost when it comes to hiring a contractor?
I would say understand that you're not a roofer, right? As a homeowner, and that you are hiring this contractor to help you out, and find somebody that's willing to help you out and give you the information you need, because since you're not a roofer, you're going to have a lot of questions. You're spending a lot of money for a new roofing system, and I always say, let's put the first roof on last, right? So one of the things that you want to do is to feel comfortable with a contractor that you're with, one that he's being honest and informative and helping you find answers to your questions, and not trying to just rush you to a signature on a contract. That's what I would look for. Experience is also important. You want to see some pictures maybe of the work they've done before. When you spend that much money, you want to have a little bit of faith that they've done this before, right? And you have to be careful, because there's a lot of what we call chucks and trucks, right? That just come by and I always say, I need to be able to process information. So if you're pitching me something faster than my brain can process it, I'm probably not going to go with you, right? So I need to make a clear decision. I need to understand everything that's being told to me. And if at any point I feel like I'm being pressured, I'm probably going to step away from it.
Nice. What is the most common places that a contractor will cut corners in building a roof tile that you see every day?
Underlayment.
Yeah, underlayment, flashing details. So there's a lot of the process that's just common, right? Like installing underlayment, installing the tile. When you get into what we kind of call extra stuff, like flashing details, stuff that kind of costs more money, contractors will tend to skip those, especially when it comes to insurance work. In my roofing career, I'm sure the insurance company's going to love me for this, but I have seen that, we have this Xactimate program that comes up with all the prices for the insurance companies, and that's kind of how the roofers kind of base their bids off of. And flashing is always included on the bid, but it is rarely ever replaced. Kind of the general thumb is if it's good, if it's not broke, why fix it, right? So the problem is that we live in such a different time now than we did 20 years ago, to where a lot of the crews that are on the job doing the work aren't supervised, right? And so the homeowner, even though she signs a contract with a person, maybe that person's not, maybe that getting the contract signed might be the only time they ever see them until it's time to come pick up the check again, right? So I think that's why a lot of times that happens, is because there's not oversight on the job. And when you're a roofer out there and it's hot, it's 120 degrees, sometimes when you're tired and you're hot, you can tend to walk away from stuff that kind of needs to be done. So you always need somebody on the job site that can just oversee that and make sure that kind of stuff's actually happening.
That is a brilliant and very important point, because it's not every project nor every company that has a responsible person for quality control on the job site. By the way, if you're having your roof done and you have in a roofing company says, well, I have my supervisor there, and at least to me, if he's holding a hammer and working, he's not supervising. He's actually a worker. He's doing the job. A actual supervisor, quality control, is walking the jobs, making sure everybody's safer on the jobs, making sure the guys got everything they need, and keeping the quality there. Because as you said, you got like 5, 6, 10 guys on the job site, and while you walk there, when you come here, there's somebody doing the wrong screw or trying again. There's so many things going on that, as a human, you're like, it's just, let me just, you have to have that person there. And of course, it adds cost to the job. It adds cost to the bid. So it's important as a contractor for you, the homeowner, to ask, will you have a dedicated person on my job making sure the quality is there? And who's that person? Something like that. I think that, that's the kind of thing that adds cost, but could make the entire difference throughout the job. Would you agree?
Yeah, you were saying earlier that you were talking about what some of the things that could cause a contract to be higher than somebody else's, and I think that's a good point. When you have Chuck in a truck, his overhead is Chuck in his truck, right? So, when you have a full staff that is dedicated to customer service, to quality control, to making sure that not only are the people that are on the job safe, but the homeowner is getting what they're paying for. I think that those things do cost more, right? And that's what you're paying for, is that peace of mind, right? To know that I have multiple people looking out for me, not just a contractor looking for a check at the end of the job.
Going back a little bit, when you mentioned about the insurance companies and paying for this, not paying for that, we, Protect Preserve Roofing, we're actually approved vendors with several insurance companies. And the way we estimate is we obviously estimate what we can see. We're not going to charge for something that we cannot see. And that is one of the advantages also when the homeowner goes with a vendor-approved contractor, is when we tear the job, and if there's something that needs to be changed, we're going to properly document it, submit to the adjuster. Everything is documented and approved by the insurance company, so we can get it all straightened out. The communication, it's better. Another thing is, imagine if we're doing a job, and when we remove that job, because the older roofs, they're probably going to have the felt system, which is, they just nailed, you remove that. But if it's a peel and stick, now we're going to have to use the two-ply system. Yeah. Nail it and put a one on the top. So if it's a self-paid job, that's a hefty cost that the homeowner is going to incur on themselves, because, yes, you can go through the attic, look in between the spaces, kind of poke a little bit and find out, but sometimes it's hard for you to identify if it's a peel and stick or if it's what kind of underlayment it is, or if there's a loose tile or whatnot. But again, there are so many things that during the process can cost a lot more money, and if it's not properly accounted for, even discussed with the homeowner. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's a lot. Most of the roof is hidden, right? It's all up under your tile. So until you tear it off, you don't really know what you're working with. And in Florida, we have situations to where we have hurricane straps. We have to have a roof wall connection. That's something that won't be identified until you get the roof off. So was the roof nailed to code, right? So that code came into place in 2021, or 2001. So homes built after 2001 were supposed to follow the 6-inch, the plywood nailed every 6 inches. But prior to that, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So all of these are things that whenever you're tearing off a roof, that you start to reveal, and things can get more expensive. And that's, to me, something that the contractor wants to have with the homeowner, a conversation with the homeowner to say, hey, here's our price, but here's also other factors that could be affecting you later on down the road. Not to scare them away, not to try to make them think that you're just trying to get more money out of them, but to kind of be upfront and say this is not a one size fits all.
Right. When it comes to inspecting a tile roof, and we see, as we spoke earlier, and we see chips on the sides, small chips, right? A couple of inches or whatnot, just broken. Sometimes the piece is still there. Would you recommend gluing them together or replacing the entire tile?
Well, it's probably going to depend on the homeowner, right, and what they want to pay for. Gluing a piece is going to be cheaper than to replacing a tile and pulling in the nails, fixing the hole, foaming another piece in there. Can you even find the piece that's broken off? Probably not, so you're probably going to have to replace the tile anyways. For a chip that's probably not that significant, it's not going to cause a lot of water intrusion. You already have a 3-inch headlap. Now, if you have a crack in the middle of the tile or a broken tile, those are things that you definitely want to address as soon as possible, because that's going to be your biggest cause of future leaks.
There's a myth in the industry that, especially insurance companies, I guess they hate that. We roofers, we find, it's a hard time, because when we go inspect a roof, and it seems to be a relatively new roof system, but the tile does not exist anymore. Why is that?
So,
That's a tough one.
yeah. So, I mean, how far back are you talking for the roofs? Because as far as, so within the last couple years, us as Westlake, we acquired a company called Boral, right? And we've kept a lot of their profiles, very few that we've discontinued. Before that, you might come across like Hansen, Monair Lifetile, Integra, all the way back to maybe Gory and Pioneer, right? So what happens is when all these got acquired and sort of got more streamlined, not every single tile could be kept, right? For sake of lead times, for quality, for updating plants. So when you get to roofs that might be like 15, 20 years old, you might not find those profiles anymore if you're trying to do a repair, right? So we do recommend there's ways to to overcome that. You can do a slope replacement where you take a small facet of the roof, replace that entire slope with new tile that's closely matching, right? That's all you can do, because even if there is a new profile that's not the same dimensions as the old profile that's been discontinued, it's not going to interlock that same, and therefore you're risking maybe some more water intrusion, right?
That's a great idea. Can you explain again? So removing the facet from one side and put it to the other side and doing an average, like trying to match as close as possible.
Yeah. So if you have a discontinued tile across your entire roof and you may be experiencing, breakage on some of those tiles, you can take the old intact tiles from a small hidden facet of the roof and use those to replace the old broken tiles through the rest of the field, and then find a new tile that we still create that's a similar color and profile, and then use that to replace that whole slope that you harvested, or that whole facet you harvested, right?
But that most likely will be for a homeowner that it's self-paying for a tile.
Yeah,
I mean, if they got insurance,
retail.
I mean, most likely they would not accept that.
Exactly.
They'd be like, I want my whole roof replaced.
Yeah, you got it, right. That would be more for the customer who's not relying on insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that what is the well, I guess not the actual, but the most common timing? Say, hey, you know what? The factory is building this profile, this style for the next 10 years or so, and then like this color doesn't exist anymore. Is there like an average expectancy in time, or not really?
No, I know from our, we are doing our best to not discontinue any more profiles at the moment. We definitely care about the homeowner, and we know it affects them discontinuing a tile.
The insurance companies, we love Westlake. They keep the tiles.
well, listen, I'm not a future, analyst or
right.
fortune teller, but I know that we're doing our best to keep the profiles that we have now, and it's been a lot of acquisitions from a lot of different companies. Integra, Monair Lifetile, Pioneer. These are all under us now.
Right. So wonderful.
So all these tiles are made out of molds, right? So they get put into a machine, get pressed to a mold. These molds are made out of aluminum, and we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of them. Mm-hmm. So there's millions of dollars to replace the molds, right? So we're not going to change the tile until we have to, right? So I would say that the only time really that the profiles are going to change is if we get to the life of a mold, right? And we're going to come out with a new mold. A lot of times the only thing that changes is the stamps, but maybe we come up with a better design, right? So like our flat tiles, we changed the design a few years ago, and then that's when there would be changes.
Wonderful. As far as maintaining the roof tile, soft wash or pressure washing, what's recommended?
Soft wash, yeah. So if you do have to clean your roof, do a soft wash, and then you can, after that, apply an acrylic sealer, right? Either tinted if you want to change the color, or clear if you want to keep the color.
So what happens when we're driving by and see those guys on the roof with like a pressure washer just beating the hell out of it, or or even like later painting? Is that really recommended? I mean, I know that you already mentioned, and thank you for that, like soft washing, it's most recommended. And what about painting? Is it recommended to paint a tile roof?
So you're going to want to do like a tint seal. You're going to want to seal the concrete. And when we're talking about a soft wash, we're talking about a wash under 1200 psi, right? So if you see a guy on your roof with a pressure washer, it doesn't actually mean that he's doing the wrong thing as long as he's using the right pressure, right? So we don't want to use heavy aggressive chemicals. We do a chlorine
10%.
Yeah, diluted rate with water, and that's sufficient. And then while you're up there, while you have somebody up there cleaning your roof, you want to be looking for those things that we need to maintain, such as broken tiles, caps, things like that.
Yeah, make sure that that person you're hiring knows how to walk on a roof. Yeah, or else you're gonna get.
And perhaps even fly a drone before. Make sure even tell the person to save all the pieces of the tile, because I'm sure when they're washing all the little pieces that could be glued or whatnot. Now it's
in the gutters.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. I love it. Like soft washing and then sealing the tiles, and that's going to extend the life of it. And maybe if you even want to change the color, right? Now we have to spend so much money doing that. And when exactly is the time that you say, it's got to go, I got to replace this tile roof? I know they're ready for this hefty investment. When is that break point? That's definitely got to go.
Some of it's going to depend on the insurance company. What are they telling you? Are they going to drop you if you don't change your roof? That's probably a good signal that, hey, I got to change my roof now. Consecutive leaks, having to keep, repair your roof. And a lot of this can be done by calling somebody like yourself to, give free roof estimate, right? Come out, give me an assessment of what my roof looks like. Ask a professional what you should do about your roof. I don't make investments with my money without consulting a professional first, right? Because these people went to school and understand the system way more than I do. And it's the same thing with a roofing system. You should reach out to a professional to give you some input on when the best time to replace your roof is. Is it now, or could I make it 4 or 5 more years?
True. When it comes to cooling the house, how does a tile roof affect the system? Is it better than shingle, than metal? What would you say?
Yeah, no, it is cooler. So even concrete itself is already going to be cooler than asphalt shingle, and that doesn't matter if it's a white tile, a dark tile, a white shingle, or a dark shingle, right? So it's all over cooler. And then what you can do is a cool roof system where you're adding more ventilation. You're doing an elevated batten system so that you get more airflow, and this can get you like 23 to 25% more savings on efficiency.
Yeah, and the temperature is, I think, 40 degrees difference between an asphalt
somewhere
shingle.
around there.
And concrete is a natural insulator. So that's one benefit. And then also, it's also sitting, has areas where it's sitting above the roof, which accumulates air, which is also an insulator. So these are the reasons why your roofing system is going to be cooler with a tile roof as opposed to a metal or even a shingle roof.
That's really nice. And overall, the tile roof, what is the do's and don'ts as far as, when it's recommended to install? Because I know some people, sometimes they ask, hey, you know what, I love the look of a tile, but they have shingles. And can they install tiles on the shingle, on the roof that had shingle before?
So tile is a lot heavier than shingle. Tile is about 900 pounds per square installed, depending on at least concrete tile is depending on what profile you're looking at. Whereas shingle, what are you at? Barely anything. You could throw
300.
shingle. 300 per square installed. So if you wanted to go from shingle to tile, you would have to bring an engineer out. You might have to do more trusses, new decking, different reinforcements in order to meet that weight. Yeah.
I'm sorry for you. If you have shingles, most likely your house is not prepared to carry the weight of a tile roof. So no. But perhaps a metal roof, yes, you could definitely replace a shingle for metal, just to, for informational purposes, right?
Yep.
In general, what's your recommendation? Is there any areas or situation that you do not recommend a tile roof?
No, a tile roof has properties that's aesthetic, right? You're not going to, you're not going to get the same look out of a metal or a shingle that you'll get out of a concrete tile. So the cooling factor is also big. In Florida, where are you going to go that's cool? So you definitely
In the Panhandle, it snowed last year.
Yeah. Every dog has its day. Yeah. So yeah, there's really nowhere that I would say you can't do it. I think that there's definitely markets for it, right? So tile is more known for the Sun Belt, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. So anywhere the sun is shining the strongest, and there's probably a reason for that, right? Because of that cooling effect. So no, I don't think there's anywhere you wouldn't do it. No.
Awesome. Well, me personally, I love Westlake. The variety of materials, the styles, colors, and most because of all the support you give. But I want you to tell, why should the homeowner ask their contractor to use Westlake tiles? I mean, I already did my part, but why would you say that? Definitely because sometimes the contractor, they bring their own manufacturer or whoever company, or even, which is really frustrating, and we just had that recently happen to us. A new contract was building like 3 homes, and I brought the samples from Westlake, but the homeowner association would not accept. So the homeowner association mandated that it had to be a different brand, even though I showed a similar color. But why would the homeowner want Westlake?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, Westlake, we're more than just our product. We're the people behind it too, right? So we have an amazing team. Obviously, you heard from Steven, who has lots of knowledge on roofing and the components and all that fun stuff. We have a great sales team. Everybody here, we all care about what we do. We care about the customers. We have direct customers, non-direct customers, the homeowners. Every step of the way we care about, and we're here to help. Our customer service team is amazing, very nice, very know what they're doing. Besides that, we're a $15 billion company, so we dump money into improving our plants, improving our product. We hear what people say, and we're constantly improving, right? So
wonderful. Well, that's
reasons.
Inspiring.
Yeah. For me, kind of just to go a little bit of backstory. So I started roofing about 20 years ago, and here in Florida in Cocoa Beach, my dad was a roofer, his dad was a roofer, so just kind of fell into a trade. And over the years, I've seen, like I said earlier, the market change quite a bit. The professionalism increased, right? I think we are living in an age where roofers are a lot more professional now, right? There's 2 sides of a roofing business. You got the business side of it, and then you have the production side of it, right? So I think we've elevated the business side of the roofing industry. There has been a little bit of a changeover in terms of the production side. So used to, whenever you wanted, like myself, I worked, I installed tile, installed metal, installed shingles. You got tired of doing it for less money, and you said, you know what, I'm going to take the knowledge I learned installing it, and I'm going to start my own business. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. We're kind of been more of an insurance world, to where we were more retail back in the day. And you don't have as many of the installers starting their own businesses. Sometimes you have salesmen starting their own businesses. Not to say that's a bad thing, because like I said, we have increased the professionalism in the industry. But I think from a business standpoint, some of what we lost was kind of the know-how to do stuff. So you have a lot of companies who don't know as much as their installers know, and sometimes that can cause an issue, because how can you make corrections when you don't know what they're doing is maybe incorrect? And so throughout my career, as things started to change, I started to realize that because I was an installer who actually installed this, I started to know more than the people who were running the business. And that changed when I moved to Westlake, right? So I think all of the old guys who knew everything, stopped working for their business and came to work for Westlake. So there's a world of knowledge. Sage gave me a lot of credit for knowing stuff, and to be honest, I don't think I've ever worked anywhere where I went, wow, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did. So there's just a wealth of knowledge and understanding in the industry, what needs to be done, what worked in the past, what didn't work, and then areas that we need to improve on.
That's wonderful. Your wealth of knowledge is inspiring. The day that we did the class and you were there showing, or you brought all the roof system to install, and that was really intriguing because you were showing that before installing the under limit to put the 6-inch self-adhering around, and all the contracts were looking at one another like, we never did that. So those minute details also could affect directly the price, and so many other things like the double self-adhering on the valleys and whatnot. Put the metal and so all those little details for the regular day-to-day homeowner, they do not understand, and those again comes out to be a couple $1,000, $2,000-$3,000 easily. The walker flags that you talked about too. I mean, there's so many little things here and there that that could make a complete difference. As far as warranty, what voids the warranty to a tile roof in general?
So if you send a contractor on your roof, or somebody to maintenance it, and they're running across of it and breaking tile, that's not going to be a manufacturer issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So the maintenance of it, damaging and stuff like that.
So our warranty is on the integrity of the tile, right? So acts of God, foot traffic, that type of stuff it's not a manufacturer's issue. It's, an outside force acting upon it, right? So that stuff wouldn't be voiding the warranty of the entire roof, but it wouldn't be covered by our warranty.
Super.
Yeah.
I think the warranty is actually probably going to be more dependent on the contractor, right? Like, what is the contractor offering the homeowner in terms of workmanship? This is concrete, right? This is some pretty stout stuff, so don't usually have a whole lot of problems with it. I do claims. I go and check out on claims, and most of the claims that I check are actually due to foot traffic, roofer maintenance, not walking properly on the roof. Things like that.
What would you definitely do not recommend when replacing a tile roof? Let's say if you really want to be, if you're on the budget, but you have the insurance company perhaps saying, hey, you have to replace this roof and it's not covered or whatever, depending on the situation. But anyway, even because of the budget, what would you not recommend? Because, the reason I ask is because sometimes it's really frustrating, and they say, like, we don't like to, I like to tell our prospects, we may not be a good fit for every project. And the reason I say this is because sometimes we get calls from builders and house flippers, right? And I hate the fact when I go see to bid a job, and it's not a problem on the material, but the problem on the system. Let's say, for instance, if the homeowner has a flat area in the back that needs correction because I can see that water is put in there for more than 48 hours. And, we say, look, now we're going to have to, fix this, with ISO boards and whatnot, to have a tapered system to shed the water properly. Or if the decking is there's some stuff that's wrong. And the common answer is, well, I'm not going to leave you.
Yeah.
And I hate that. So this is why I say, then I'm sorry, we're not a good fit, because I know someone, that house is being sold, it's going to be someone's dream, and I don't want to ruin it. Our name, our permit's going to be there. So I hate the fact that there are some contractors out there just for a quick buck, and they see, as you mentioned wisely, Stephen, is that, and I'm not bashing in general salespeople, but a lot of them are in the business for a quick buck. So they would tell you, they look pretty, they come in, they're very friendly. It's not even about knowledge, because I learn every day. I learn every day about roofing. Every day is a new thing, is a new product. I learn in the field, but is actually, telling what the person wants to hear to get the job, now they're gone. Sometimes like storm chasers come from another state, doing the job here, making some money, and off they go. And unfortunately, having a background of 20 years in the property restoration business and coming into roofing, it breaks my heart. And as we were talking earlier, unfortunately, the roofing industry has made headlines one too many times, and not for the good reasons. And it's really sad to see homeowners being screwed every day. And this is why the reason we get together and genuinely want to help the public with good information that they can find and ask questions. And whether you use Protect, Preserve or not, it's okay. If we can help you, through the process of choosing a contract that makes sense to you, we will. And this is, why we love having you here today and answering the questions and making sure that people get educated and make great choices. And the great choice today is Westlake Tiles.
All right.
Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.